From the apps on your phone to pretty much every service you use at work, Kubernetes is that invisible engine just humming along, powering our modern digital world. It's this huge, complex system, and, well, just like any great fortress, its strength depends entirely on its defenses. So today, we're going to build that fortress. Okay, let's dive in. So just to give you a sense of the scale we're talking about, get a load of this number. According to the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, a staggering 96% of organizations are now either using or evaluating Kubernetes. I mean, this isn't just a trend anymore, it's basically the standard. And with that kind of massive adoption, the focus on security isn't just growing, it's absolutely skyrocketing. You can see the interest from developers just exploding. It makes sense, right? More Kubernetes means more to protect, and that urgency to figure out how to lock it all down has never been higher. So what exactly are we defending against? Who's trying to get inside our fortress? Well, the NSA and CSIA have a fantastic guide that actually breaks it all down into three main threat categories. Let's get to know the enemy. First up, we've got supply chain risks. Okay, think of this like sabotage from the outside. You're building your fortress, but the stones and the wood you're using, they've been tampered with. Malicious code can be hidden away in the container images or third-party tools you trust, creating a vulnerability before you've even gone live. Next, of course, are the malicious threat actors. These are the invaders actively trying to storm the walls. They're probing for weaknesses, they're hunting for misconfigurations, and they're trying to exploit any known vulnerability to find a way in. This is that direct external assault you picture when you think of hackers. And finally, there's the insider threat. And honestly, this might be the most dangerous of all because it comes from within. We're talking about a privileged user, an administrator, a developer, someone who already has the keys to the castle. They can misuse that access, whether they mean to or not, and cause some serious damage. All right, so how do we start building our defenses? Well, we're going to start at the ground level with the most fundamental building blocks of Kubernetes, the pods that run our applications, and the networks that connect them all together. Pods are the smallest little units you can deploy in Kubernetes, which naturally makes them a prime target for attackers. So hardening them isn't really optional. For starters, this means running your applications as non-root users to limit an attacker's power if they get in. It also means using read-only file systems whenever you can, so they can't mess with your code. You have to be constantly scanning your images for vulnerabilities, and this is a big one, you must prevent any container from running with escalated privileged access. Okay, now let's talk about the network. The absolute best practice here is to build yourself a digital moat. Using what are called network policies, you start with a deny by default stance. That's right, total lockdown, no traffic in or out. Then, you become the gatekeeper. You explicitly open the drawbridges only for the specific connections that are absolutely necessary. It's a brilliant way to isolate your most critical components, your crown jewels, making it incredibly difficult for an attacker to move around if they do manage to get inside. Okay, so our walls are strong, our moats are in place. The next layer of defense is all about managing who gets a key to the gate, and, just as important, what they can do once they're inside. This is all about controlling access and protecting our most sensitive data. In Kubernetes, we manage this through something called role-based access control, or RBAC. And it's actually pretty simple when you break it down. A role gives a user permissions inside one specific area, a namespace. Think of it like a key to a single barracks in the fortress. A cluster role, on the other hand, is the master key. It grants permissions across the entire fortress. The principle of least privilege is absolutely vital here. Only give people the keys they absolutely need to do their job, and nothing more. Now here's something that might really surprise you, and this warning comes straight from the NSA. By default, the way Kubernetes handles secrets, things like passwords and API keys, is incredibly insecure. They're just stored using base 64 encoding, which is not encryption. It's just a way of writing down the data. And it's super easy for anyone to reverse. It's literally like leaving your crown jewels in a box with a little note on it that says, please don't open. You absolutely have to enable proper encryption for your secrets. And look, this isn't just some theoretical problem. When you look at what developers themselves are worried about, what are they talking about online? It turns out secrets management and access control are right at the top of their list of security concerns. The official guidance from the government and the real-world pain points, they line up perfectly. Developers are out there actively trying to solve this, and that tells you just how critical it is. So, what's our final layer of defense? Well, it isn't a wall or a gate, it's a watchtower. Because at the end of the day, you can't protect your fortress from threats you can't even see. This layer is all about comprehensive logging and threat detection. A really effective logging strategy is your early warning system. You need to log everything from the API server down to individual applications. And those logs can't just sit there on the local machines. They need to be shipped off to a central, secure spot for analysis. From there, you figure out what normal activity looks like. You establish a baseline, and then you can set up automated alerts for anything that deviates from it. That's how you spot an intruder before they do real damage. So what does an attack actually look like in the logs? Well, here are some really clear examples. If an attacker is trying to escalate their privileges, you might see a whole flood of failed API requests. If they're trying to break out of a container and get to the host machine, you might see some really unusual volume mount activity. And if they're trying to set up shop and stay for a while, you should look for the unauthorized creation of scheduled jobs. These are the telltale signs, the smoke that tells you there's a fire. So we've built our fortress. We've got 3 solid layers of defense. But here's the single most critical takeaway from all of this. Securing Kubernetes is not a one-time setup. A fortress that's never maintained will eventually crumble, right? Security is a continuous process. Your defense has to be a living, breathing cycle. You have to constantly scan for new vulnerabilities, you have to patch your systems promptly, and you need to proactively test your own defenses with things like penetration tests. On top of that, you have to continuously review who has access to what and audit your logs, always looking for signs of risk. Security isn't a state you achieve, it's a process you maintain, day in and day out. Ultimately, Kubernetes is so much more than just technology. It's the foundation for so much of our digital lives. And as it continues to build our world, the responsibility falls on all of us, developers, administrators, security professionals, to build and maintain its defenses. The fortress is vast, and it needs vigilant guards.